to our home here at Rocking TLC Farms located in Greenbrier, Arkansas. Here my husband and I raise registered Katahdin sheep for breeding stock. What I want to go over today is basically lambing supplies one-on-one. Now, as I go over the things, I'm going to tell you why we use them for lambing. Especially the antibiotics can be used for multiple things, but today we specifically just want to talk about lambing. If I say something about a disease or illness that you're not familiar with, I encourage you to jump out there and go Google and get more knowledge of what's going on. First thing we keep on hand is the propylene glycol. That is for our pregnant ewes. If they get pregnancy toxemia, it is more common with ewes carrying twins, triplets, or quads, and so forth. So we keep that on hand. Next, what we have is prescription Neffler. Now, this is an antibiotic that we use if either the lamb or the ewe gets pneumonia, the lamb gets joint ill, or if the ewes may be at risk of an infection due to the fact that maybe we had to go in and pull some lambs, maybe one was dead, so forth. Now, in saying that this is prescription, I encourage you, all of you, to have a good working relationship with your veterinarian. You always want your veterinarian to know ahead of time, if you don't have one already, what you're doing. He or she can give you some tips, some insight, so forth. But always keep your veterinarian aware of what you're doing, especially when it comes closer to lambing season, and always get their opinions as well. What we have here is Prevail, which is kind of like Banamine for inflammation and pain. That will come in handy for pneumonia and joint ill. And again, if we had a ewe that had a really hard birth, lambing, we had to go in and assist, there's inflammation, and so forth. Now, when it comes to B complex, we like to use Maxi B 1000. This is over the counter. You can get it on any of the online vet supplies, Tractor Supply, any of your local hardware stores will usually carry this. We like to give this along with if a lamb has pneumonia, if a lamb is feeling lethargic, or a ewe, they seem a little off. We always like to give them a boost with Maxi B complex. The same thing with B12, depending on what's going on. Your vet may say, hey, jump out there. This is a little stronger stuff. You've got to have a prescription for it. Again, that's why I encourage you to also have a very good working relationship with your vet, so you have the antibiotics and prescription drugs you need. The sooner you treat your ewes and your lambs with the correct medicines, the better chance you have for a full recovery. So your vet may say you need vitamin B12 depending on what's going on with the ewe or lamb. Alcohol, sterilize. Any equipment that you use with your sheep or other animals, I encourage you to sterilize. It costs nothing, a little bit of time, saves a whole lot of problems. Nutri-Drench, like to give a lamb that maybe is having a little tough time getting going. Like to give our ewes if they have pregnancy toxemia or have had a long hard birth, had some big old babies coming out and they're just a little tired, a little off. We really like this. Again, we like to use lamb and kid. If we have a little lamb that's a little weaker, a little smaller, maybe it's a triplet, the smallest of the one, maybe we're having to bottle feed, what have you, we like to start them on this right here. Can't ever go wrong with a little probiotics when somebody's off, especially if you're giving antibiotics. You always want to follow up with probiotics. It's good for the gut. We carry powder on hand, and we also have the gel. If you're going to get the gel, make sure you get the one that says bovine, okay? Don't get equine. What I don't have up here that I so wonderfully left down at the barn is iodine. What you want to do is you want to get a little container like this, or even smaller, what have you, and you want to fill it to almost to the top. Reason being, you're going to want to take that little lamb within 15-30 minutes or so of being born and dip their navel in this all the way to the belly. You want to be able to fight off to keep it from getting infected with any bacteria or any infections and causing any joint ill or anything like that. So we just take the iodine, pour it in here, take the little lamb, stick it on there, kind of jiggle it around, make sure we get their belly. So another thing that's going to be real important for you to have on hand is your plastic shoulder gloves. You're going to want that. And you're going to want to lube up with your lube that you can get from any of your Tractor Supplies or online stores as well. In case you got to go in, you've got to pull some lamb. One of them's breech. One of them's just having a hard time coming out. It's too big, just not presented right, what have you. Could be multiple reasons why you got to glove up with your shoulder gloves. Now, we keep these gloves on hand all year round. Anytime we're handling a sick lamb or sheep, we always glove up. Now, anytime that you're handling lambs, when you go from lamb to lamb, glove up, especially when they're first born. The mom can get confused if you carry in another smell, and she may not want to nurse. She may want to kick the baby around, whatever. We just always would rather err on the side of caution. Glove up anytime we pick up a new lamb. Our scissors, any little paradiddle we keep in hand, especially to cut the navel cord if it's too long, and especially dragging the ground, and we don't want the lamb to cause any other injuries to itself. Always pour alcohol on before we use the scissors on them, and always pour it back on the scissors and clean them well, okay? No reason not to sanitize. Any mom that's had little human babies is gonna recognize these little snot suckers. You wanna keep these on hand and keep them clean. They're also cheap enough, you can buy multiples, okay? If mom has one lamb on the ground and she's cleaning and 2 or 3 more are falling out behind her, you wanna help her, go ahead, just suck the snot out of their nose. And if there's quite a bit of coughing and so forth, you may just want to gently reach that in there, and if they have any mucus inside their mouths, and suck that out as well, just to kind of help mom out, make sure everybody gets a good start. Another thing that we like to do when mom drops those little babies is we give her a minute, let her clean up, let them get the colostrum, make sure mom's going to bond with them. But that first day, we want to get a weight, okay? So these are relatively inexpensive. Here's the hook that latches onto this. We put little lamb in there real nice and easy so it don't fall out or we drop it. We want to get weights the first day, and we like to keep an eye on ours for the next few days. We want to make sure we're gaining weight. If we're gaining weight, that means mom's doing a good job feeding them, and we have no worries. Another thing is when mom sometimes has too many, or if she's overweight, or any other reason whatsoever, mom can do what is called a prolapse, okay? If you're not familiar with prolapse, please familiarize yourself with it and how to handle it. What we have here is a prolapse retainer. Knock on wood, we've not had to use one yet at Rocking TLC, but never say never, okay? We always have one of these on hand. So again, if you don't know what prolapse is, familiar yourself with it. This is relatively inexpensive. It's one of those things, when you need it, you need it. We also have multiple little paint sticks in multiple colors. We like to put, if all the lambs, mom has 2 or 3 lambs, and they're all solid white, we'll put little dots on them so we know who we weighed, or if we had to give one a little extra oomph because it was just a little lethargic, whatever. We want to know that we can keep up with the lambs and the moms and know who came from who and who still goes to who. So we also, thank goodness, have never had to use these lamb pullers, but again, never say never. One of those things, when you need them, you need them. If you don't know how to use them, familiar yourself with them. They usually come with instructions, or you can Google how to use these as well. We are not selenium deficient in our area. Doesn't mean we'll never need any. There could be reasons that your lamb presents itself that may give rise to selenium deficiency. So we always keep a tube on hand that is not expired. Once it expires, then we say, whoops, we need another tube on hand, and expensive enough to have it for when we need it. You're always going to need a drenching gun, either for mom or the babies. Sometimes with the babies, you can just use a simple syringe. Drenching gun we use for our propylene here and many other things as well. Always make sure you clean your drenching gun when you're finished. What we also like to do is I like to keep some kind of bag. This is just a simple utility bag I went to Home Depot and got. It's got pockets on the outside, pockets on the inside. It zips up and it has a strap. I don't want anything in the open, because if I'm going to point A to point B, or if the sheep are kicking up dust wherever I'm at or whatever, I don't want my supplies getting contaminated with any kind of dirt and so on and so forth. So I always make sure my bag zips up, and anything that I take out when I bring back in, I clean off the tops with alcohol to make sure there's no contamination. I saved these for last, but these are what you're going to want to get first. This is a book, Story's Guide to Raising Sheep. I cannot encourage you enough, if you're new to sheep or you're thinking about getting sheep, or you've had sheep for a couple of years, but you still got a lot of questions going on. This book right here is a very, very good book to have on hand. I encourage you, if you haven't lambed before, if you've only lambed once or twice and you're still trying to get the hang of things, jump out there and purchase this book. You can get it on Amazon, Tractor Supply. You can find it several different places online. Another book I found helpful that I recommend to people also is Practical Lambing and Lamb Care. You just can't learn enough. And every situation could be different. And so when you need help, you need help. And you may not always be able to get your vet, a mentor, or anybody else. So always be prepared. So I really do encourage everyone to jump out there and grab this book. Before we end, I also need to go over with you, I like to keep 3cc syringes is my main go-to. I do have 6 laying around, 6cc, just in case. Those are going to be more so for my use. But always make sure you've got plenty of 3cc syringes. You can buy them in bulk. I encourage you not to reuse these. Okay, they're cheap enough. When you're done, throw them away. Don't cross-contaminate. Needles, I like to keep in this little handy-dandy thing. I also got at the hardware store at Home Depot. My needles are in here. I have different sizes for different reasons. My main go-to is a 20/20 gauge, 3/4 inch. I do have a 1 inch 20 gauge, and I do have I think I got an 18 gauge in here, but I don't really use 18 gauge much. I'm either going to jump out there and use my 20 or 22. 22 I mainly use on my lambs. I don't use anything over an inch. Lambs I'll usually 1/4 inch. You'll get used to what works for you. Also, make sure you've got plenty of needles on hand. If when you're done vaccinating, doing whatever, throw the needle away. They're cheap enough, guys. Don't sit there and cross-contaminate, okay? If you got one that's sick and you're maybe vaccinating with CDT shots or something, use a different needle. It's cheap enough. So one other thing we also use, by the way, is Vetericyn Plus. I like that if a lamb or a ewe gets cut or has a sore, whatever case, glove up, put a little of this on there a couple times a day. We really like it. It really works great. So guys, these are the things that Rocking TLC uses, along with hygiene that I keep talking about. I always like to, before I handle any sheep, I have some alcohol in here to sterilize my own hand, and hand sanitizers. I always keep a couple of that with me. If I'm working with sheep and some are ill, even if I use gloves, I'll always sanitize before I go to the next. So again, this is just Lambing Supplies 101. I didn't go over what all the multiple uses of all these things could be. We could do videos for hours on all this different stuff. Just always try to be prepared ahead of time. You'll have a better chance of a healthier flock and saving lambs if you have everything ahead of time. You're not having to wait till the store opens the next day or wait for a vet. Again, it is so important to have a relationship with your vet on the front end and have all these supplies on the front end. This may not be all you need, but this is a really good start. I encourage you guys to go out there and like us on Facebook, Rocking TLC Farms. We're always putting articles out there to try and help everyone the best we can. I encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to continue to try to put information out there that'll help beginners, intermediate, and so forth. I hope this helps you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.